Happy Friday, Muskies. It's March 20th, the first official day of spring. I'm Erin Kirby.
And I'm Roberto Stadhagen. This is Xavier News.
From the Xavier University Television Studio, this is Xavier News.
For decades, law school graduates have endured a stressful rite of passage, spending the first 10 weeks after classes preparing for a grueling day-long bar exam. Those who do not pass the bar cannot practice law in the United States or in the District of Columbia. The test is facing new scrutiny from test takers, law school deans, and some state legal establishments. Some states are exploring other options, questioning the validity of relying on a single written test to evaluate an individual's ability to practice law. Stephen F. Ferrula, Dean of the University of San Diego School of Law, stated, quote, "The exam is an unpredictable and unacceptable implement for accessibility to the legal profession," end quote. This kind of change is complicated by the differing interest in the legal industry. Eliminating the current bar exam would give law schools more leeway to create programs and conduct testing that determines who becomes a lawyer.
On Wednesday, terrorists attacked the National Bardo Museum in Tunis by opening fire on the tourists there. The two gunmen killed 21 people, 19 of whom were tourists from all around the world. 47 others were wounded. The two soldiers, Yassin Labidi and Hatem Kaknawi, were also killed. Any link to a particular armed militant group is not known at the moment, but the attack is recognized as an act of terrorism. When addressing the citizens of Tunisia, President Beij Caid Essebsi said, quote, "I want the Tunisian people to understand that we are in a war against terrorism and that these savage minorities do not frighten us." So far, 9 people allegedly connected to the attack have been arrested.
Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz is encouraging his employees to discuss the hot-button issue of race. Starbucks published a full page in the New York Times on Sunday, a blank page with the small words, "Shall we overcome" in the middle, and the words "Race Together" with the company logo at the bottom right. The campaign was launched this week by the coffee store chain to stimulate conversation to debate issues of race in America by getting employees to exchange with customers. The initiative follows several months of consultations with employees that started in December in result of the protest in Ferguson. Schultz has met with almost 2,000 Starbucks employees since the city's hit most directly with racial tension and anti-police brutality. The goal is simply to foster discussion and exchange ideas.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gained right-wing voter support for his re-election last Tuesday, thanks to a newly hardened stance on the issue of a Palestinian state. Netanyahu claimed that, quote, "Anyone who is going to establish a Palestinian state today and evacuate lands is giving attack grounds to the radical Islam against the state of Israel," end quote. Netanyahu had previously expressed sympathy for a two-state solution between Israel and Palestine by granting independence to Palestine as its own country. The international backlash the Prime Minister has received has been notably overwhelming. With the threat of a loss in U.S. political support for Israel at the UN, Netanyahu has retracted his statements, now saying that he wants a, quote, "sustainable, peaceful two-state solution." Netanyahu has not said he is ready to return to negotiations or suggest any new ideas for establishing peace.
A body was pulled from the Passaic River in New Jersey this week, was identified on Thursday as that of a Wall Street Journal reporter who disappeared in January 2014 while walking near his home. The identification of reporter David Byrd ended a missing persons case that stretched for more than a year. There was even a webpage devoted to his safe return. Cause and time of death are still undetermined. The authorities believe foul play was involved. Officials are questioning relatives of Mr. Byrd, including the widow of him, Nancy. He was said to have disappeared while walking on the wooded trails near his house.
West Coast rapper Kendrick Lamar was due to release his sophomore LP, To Pimp a Butterfly, on March 23rd. The album has been hotly anticipated by fans everywhere, especially after the release of his popular singles I and The Blacker the Berry, which received much critical acclaim. As a result, fans were thrilled by the surprise release of the album a week early last Sunday. The album's 16 songs have been positively received for their intelligent, political, and emotional lyrics, as well as for their creative instrumentals in many styles, featuring collaborations with Rhapsody, Bilal, Thundercat, and even funk legend George Clinton of Parliament fame. The album is currently available on iTunes and Spotify. That's all from this desk. Enjoy the March Madness game this weekend. Speaking of which, stay tuned for Connor Muldoon with the Xavier Sports Report.
Hello, Musketeer fans, and welcome to the Xavier Sports Report. I'm Connor Muldoon, and here's what's happening in Xavier Sports right now. We're going to start on the hardwood, where your Xavier Musketeers had a pretty solid showing at the Big East tournament. Despite losing in the championship game to Villanova, Xavier beat two top 25 teams in Butler and Georgetown to reach the pinnacle game this past Saturday. Their performance at Madison Square Garden caught the attention of the NCAA tournament committee, who rewarded their resilient play with a number 6 seed for the big dance. Yesterday afternoon, the Muskies took on Ole Miss in Jacksonville for the second round of the NCAA tournament, winning by a score of 76-57. Matt Stainbrook led the team with 20 points, making 8 out of 10 from the field. Stainbrook was 1 rebound away from a double-double. D. Davis was right behind Stainbrook with 17 points. The Musketeers shot 43.5% from behind the arc and 46.4% from two-point range. Xavier will play the 14-seeded Georgia State Panthers tomorrow at 6 p.m., and I just want to personally thank Georgia State for being one of the 2 teams that destroyed my bracket. So thank you, Georgia State. We'll see you tomorrow. Going to the Diamond, Xavier Baseball is currently on a 2-game win streak, breaking their 10-game skid. They swept the Miami Redhawks this past weekend, with both games seeing a score of 10-5. In their most recent win on Saturday, the Musketeers were led by Eric Stein, who pitched 6 innings, giving up 3 earned runs on 4 hits. We will see if the Musketeers can keep their streak alive as they play tonight at Lipscomb at 7 p.m. In making a 180 back to basketball, the Xavier women's team hosted a women's basketball invitational game at the Cintas Center last night. The Lady Musketeers took on and defeated William & Mary with a score of 57-56. Rayshon Gaffney led the team with 16 points. And Xavier will host the second round game on Sunday at 2 p.m. right here again at the Cintas Center. Well, that's all we got here. From everyone in the studio, have a great weekend, and let's go X.